The fluorescent lights of the hospital nursery hummed above me, a constant drone that had become the soundtrack to my exhaustion. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, watching the tiny bundle wrapped in pink cotton. My daughter, Lily. 3 days old, and already more precious than anything I'd ever known. The antiseptic smell of the corridor mixed with the faint scent of newborn that still clung to my hospital gown, creating an odd comfort in this sterile world. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another bill, probably. I'd stopped opening them 2 days ago. The nurse, Maria, appeared beside me with that practiced smile they all wore. "She's beautiful, honey. You should rest." Rest. As if I could afford that luxury, as if the father of my child hadn't disappeared the moment I'd told him, taking with him not just my trust, but also $20,000 I'd been saving for exactly this moment. Marcus. Even thinking his name made my throat tight. The man I'd thought would be my forever had turned out to be nothing more than a skilled liar with quick hands and quicker feet. "I will," I lied, offering her a weak smile. The bracelet caught my eye, the small plastic band around Lily's impossibly tiny wrist. The hospital photographer had taken pictures earlier, mentioned something about a commemorative package. I hadn't been paying attention, my mind foggy with medications and the overwhelming reality of single motherhood. But now, staring at my daughter through the glass, I wanted to capture everything, every detail, every moment. Because moments were all we had, and I needed to remember them when the nights got hard. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo through the glass. The image came out better than expected. Lily's peaceful face, her tiny fingers curled near her chin, and the bracelet clearly visible with her name printed in bold letters. Lily Marie Woods, born December 4th, 2025. Mother, Elena Woods. No father listed. That space remained blank, just like my future felt. My phone was almost dead, 5% battery. I needed to send this to someone, anyone, just to have it backed up somewhere safe. My mother had passed 2 years ago, and I had no siblings. Friends had scattered when Marcus's betrayal became public knowledge, as if poverty were contagious. But there was Sarah, my former coworker from the diner. She'd texted yesterday, asked how I was doing. I pulled up my messages, scrolling through the short list, my vision blurred with tears I refused to shed. Not here. Not now. The contacts swam before my eyes. Sarah's name. I clicked it. Except I didn't. My trembling fingers, still clumsy from the epidural's lingering effects, hit the wrong name. The message sent with that soft whoosh sound before I could stop it. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the screen. Then ice flooded my veins. The message had gone to a number I didn't recognize, a contact saved simply as MR. I didn't know anyone with those initials. Frantically, I scrolled through my recent calls, trying to place it. Nothing. The number was a ghost in my phone, probably a wrong number I'd saved by accident weeks ago, maybe a spam call I'd mistakenly added. My heart hammered. It was just a photo of a baby bracelet. Nothing sensitive, nothing dangerous. Some stranger would receive it, delete it, move on with their life. I tried to breathe normally. It didn't matter. It couldn't matter. But something cold settled in my stomach anyway. A premonition I couldn't name. The discharge papers crinkled in my hands as I signed my name for the 40th time. Nurse Maria had tried to convince me to stay another day, but I couldn't afford it. Each night in this hospital was another bill I'd never pay. Another debt that would follow me like a shadow. "You have a ride home?" she asked, her eyes too knowing, too sympathetic. "Yes." I lied again. Lying had become easier lately. Survival required it. I'd take the bus. Lily in one arm, the small bag of donated baby supplies in the other. The city would be cold, but we'd manage. We had to. I was finishing the last form when my phone buzzed. Still at 3% battery, somehow clinging to life as desperately as I was. The message notification made my breath catch. Unknown number. "Where did you get this photo?" My fingers froze. The stranger. The misplaced message. I should have ignored it, but something in those 6 words felt like a hook in my chest, pulling tight. Me. "Sorry, wrong number. Please delete it." I waited, watching the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Unknown. Number. Answer the question. The words weren't a request, they were a command, typed with the certainty of someone who expected obedience. Something about that tone made my pulse quicken. Not with fear exactly, but with awareness. Like my body recognized a predator before my mind could catch up. Me, it's my daughter. I sent it by mistake. Sorry for the confusion. The dots appeared immediately. Unknown number. The bracelet. What does it say? I stared at the message. Why would anyone care about a hospital bracelet? Unless... My mind raced through possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Identity theft? Some kind of hospital scam? I'd heard stories of people targeting new mothers, vulnerable and distracted. Me. Just her name and birth date. Standard hospital bracelet. Unknown. Number. Send me a clearer photo. Now. Now my fear crystallized into something solid. This wasn't normal. This wasn't a simple case of wrong number curiosity. The demand in that message, the authority, it made my skin prickle. Me. No, please don't contact me again. I blocked the number with shaking hands. Nurse Maria returned with a wheelchair. Hospital policy, she explained, and I barely heard her. My mind was still on those messages, on the stranger who'd shown such intense interest in a photo of my newborn daughter. It's nothing, I told myself. Just someone strange. The city was full of them, but as I settled into the wheelchair with Lily bundled against my chest, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a terrible mistake. That the photo I'd sent into the void had somehow reached exactly the wrong person. The elevator descended, and with each floor, the weight on my chest grew heavier. Not just the exhaustion, not just the fear of the unknown stretching before us, but something else. Something that felt like being watched by eyes I couldn't see. The apartment smelled like mildew and regret. 3 rooms on the 4th floor of a building that had seen better decades, with pipes that groaned and neighbors who screamed through paper-thin walls. But it was mine. Barely. The eviction notice tucked into my mailbox suggested even that wouldn't last much longer. I laid Lily in the second-hand bassinet I'd bought at a thrift store, my arms aching from carrying her up 4 flights since the elevator had been broken for months. She slept on, oblivious to the fact that her mother was drowning. My phone had died on the bus, small mercies. I plugged it into the charger and watched it come back to life with that familiar Apple logo. 17%, 18, 19. Then the notifications started flooding in. My heart stopped. 43 missed calls, all from blocked numbers. 27 text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. With trembling hands, I opened the first message. Unknown number. You can't hide from this. Different number. We need to talk. It's important. Another number. Check your door. That last one made my blood turn to ice. I stood frozen in the middle of my tiny living room, Lily's soft breathing the only sound. Check my door. What did that mean? I crept toward the door, my socks silent on the worn carpet. Through the peephole, the hallway was empty. But when I looked down, my breath caught. A white envelope lay on my doormat. Thick, expensive paper. The kind that didn't belong in a building like this. I shouldn't open it. Every instinct screamed at me to call the police, to grab Lily and run. But run where? I had nowhere to go. No one to call. And what would I even tell them? Someone sent me mysterious texts? My fingers worked the lock, the chain, the deadbolt. I opened the door just enough to snatch the envelope and slam it shut again, all 3 locks clicking back into place. The envelope was heavy. No name, no address. Just thick cream paper that felt like money in my hands. Inside, a single card. Black cardstock with silver lettering. Tomorrow, noon, Il Cielo Ristorante, come alone. And below it, a single initial, R. My legs gave out. I sank to the floor, my back against the door, staring at the card like it might bite me. Il Cielo. I knew that restaurant. Everyone in the city knew it. The kind of place where reservations required a month's notice, and my entire year's salary wouldn't cover a single meal. The kind of place where powerful people made deals that never saw daylight. This couldn't be about a wrong number photo. This was something else. Something I'd stumbled into without meaning to. Lily whimpered from her bassinet. and I scrambled to my feet, shoving the card into my pocket. I lifted my daughter into my arms, pressing her warm weight against my chest like a talisman against the cold fear spreading through my veins. "It's okay, baby," I whispered into her downy hair. "We're okay." But we weren't. I could feel it in my bones, that same premonition from the hospital, now fully formed into certainty. The photo I'd sent hadn't just reached the wrong person. It had reached someone dangerous, someone who'd seen something in that bracelet that I couldn't understand. Something that had made them move mountains to find me within hours. Something that now demanded my presence at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. And the most terrifying part, deep down, in a place I didn't want to examine too closely, I knew I would go. Not because I wanted to, not because I was brave, but because whoever had sent that card wasn't asking, they were telling. And people who gave orders like that, who commanded with such casual certainty, weren't the type to accept no for an answer. They were the type who took what they wanted. Consequences be damned. I looked down at Lily's peaceful face. So innocent, so unaware of the storm gathering around us. What did I do? I whispered into the darkness of my apartment. But the darkness didn't answer. It never did. Outside my window, the city glittered with 1,000 lights, each one hiding 1,000 secrets. And somewhere out there, someone was waiting for noon tomorrow, waiting for me to walk into whatever trap I'd accidentally set by sending a single photograph. The bracelet photo was still on my phone. I pulled it up, zooming in on Lily's tiny wrist, searching for whatever had triggered this response. Lily Marie Woods, December 4th, 2025. Mother, Elena Woods. Just a name, just a date, just a baby. What could anyone possibly want with us? Sleep didn't come that night. How could it? I lay in the darkness, Lily nestled in the bassinet beside my bed, and watched shadows crawl across the ceiling. Every creak of the building made my pulse spike. Every footstep in the hallway outside became a potential threat. At 3 a.m., I gave up pretending. I fed Lily, changed her, held her against my chest, and breathed in that sweet newborn scent that somehow made everything both better and worse. Better because she was here, perfect, and mine. Worse because I had no idea how to protect her from whatever was coming. The card sat on my nightstand, its silver lettering catching the streetlight filtering through my thin curtains. Il cielo ristorante, noon. Come alone. I'd Googled the restaurant around midnight. My phone's glow harsh in the darkness. The images that populated my screen were obscene in their luxury. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, waiters in tuxedos serving plates that cost more than my rent. Reviews mentioned celebrities, politicians, business moguls. One article called it, "Where Power Dines in the City," not the kind of place for a broke single mother in bargain store jeans. But more than that, the deeper I scrolled, the more uncomfortable the truth became. Il Cielo wasn't just expensive. It was exclusive in a way that suggested ownership by people who preferred shadows to spotlights. Comments hinted at connected clientele, the kind of connections that made journalists write carefully, and police look the other way. My hands had trembled so badly I'd nearly dropped my phone. Now, with dawn approaching, and Lily finally asleep again, I faced the impossible question. Was I really going to walk into that restaurant? Into what might be a trap, but what choice did I have? The alternative was waiting here, vulnerable for whoever had sent that card to lose patience. And something told me these weren't people whose patience lasted long. At least in a public restaurant, I'd be safe. Wouldn't I? I laughed bitterly into the darkness. Safe. As if I knew what that word meant anymore. By 11 a.m., I'd changed clothes 4 times. Everything I owned looked shabby, worn thin by too many washes and too many years. Finally, I settled on my only dress. Black, simple, bought for my mother's funeral. It was too big now. Stress and pregnancy had stolen weight I couldn't afford to lose. But it was clean, and it didn't have stains. The real problem was Lily. Come alone, the card had said. But I couldn't leave her. Not with anyone, because there wasn't anyone to leave her with. The neighbor I'd sometimes talked to had moved out last month. Sarah lived across town and worked days. There was no one. so I'd have to bring her. Whoever wanted to meet me would have to accept that I came as a package now. I dressed Lily carefully in the small pink sleeper that the hospital had provided, wrapped her in the thin blanket I'd received from the charity basket. She looked so tiny, so fragile. My heart cracked a little more. "I'm sorry," I whispered, kissing her forehead. "I'm so sorry you got stuck with me." The bus ride downtown took 40 minutes. I sat in the back, Lily in my arms, and watched the city transform outside the window. My neighborhood's crumbling buildings gave way to renovated brownstones, then to glass towers and manicured streets. By the time we reached the restaurant district, I felt like I'd traveled to another country. Il Cielo occupied the ground floor of a building that looked like it had been carved from pearl, actual pearl, white stone that seemed to glow in the midday sun, with tall windows draped in fabric that probably cost more than my car had before Marcus sold it. I stood across the street, clutching Lily, and seriously considered running, but my feet carried me forward anyway. Across the street, up the 3 marble steps, to the heavy glass door where a man in a black suit stood like a sentinel. He was huge, not tall, though he was that too, but broad, solid, the kind of build that suggested violence was always an option. His eyes swept over me, assessing, dismissing, until they landed on the baby in my arms. Something shifted in his expression. Not softening exactly, but recognition. Like he'd been expecting this. "Name," he said, not a question. A demand. "Elena Woods." My voice sounded small, swallowed by the street noise behind me. He touched his ear, an earpiece I realized, and murmured something I couldn't hear. Then he nodded once and pulled open the door. "Second floor. Private dining room. Elevator is straight ahead." I wanted to ask questions. Who was I meeting? What did they want? Was I walking to my death? Instead, I stepped inside. The interior stole my breath. Everything gleamed. The floors, the walls, the massive chandelier hanging like a frozen waterfall in the center of the room. The air smelled like money and roses, an overwhelming perfume that made my head spin. Soft music played from hidden speakers, something classical and mournful. A woman in a crisp white shirt appeared beside me, her smile professional but cold. "This way, Ms. Woods." She didn't wait for confirmation, just turned and walked toward a glass elevator at the back of the room. I followed because there was nothing else to do. Lily heavy in my arms, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The elevator rose silently. The woman didn't speak, didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead like I was cargo being delivered. Second floor. The doors opened onto a hallway even more opulent than the floor below. Dark wood paneling, paintings that looked old and expensive, sconces that cast warm light across thick carpet that swallowed sound. "Last door on the right," the woman said, already stepping back into the elevator. Then I was alone in the hallway, Lily stirring against my chest, and the door at the end waiting like a mouth ready to swallow me whole. I walked forward. What else could I do? My hand shook as I reached for the handle. The metal was cold, heavy, expensive. Everything here was expensive, designed to remind people like me that we didn't belong. I pushed the door open. The room beyond was smaller than I'd expected. Intimate. A single table set for 2, white linens and crystal glasses catching light from the window that overlooked the city. The view was breathtaking, towers and streets stretching to the horizon, the world laid out like a map, but I barely saw it, because there was a man standing by the window, his back to me, and everything in my body screamed danger. He was tall. That was my first coherent thought. Tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that looked like it had been sewn directly onto his body, black fabric that caught the light, perfectly tailored, the kind of clothing that whispered wealth so profound it didn't need to shout. His hair was dark, almost black, cut short, but with enough length on top to suggest careful styling. His hands were in his pockets, casual, relaxed. But there was nothing relaxed about the tension in his shoulders, the controlled stillness of his posture. He didn't turn around immediately, just stood there, looking out at the city like he owned it. Maybe he did. "Close the door," he said. His voice hit me like a physical thing, deep, smooth, with an accent I couldn't quite place. American but educated, polished to a shine that suggested private schools and old money. But underneath that polish was something else. Something rough. Dangerous. I closed the door. The click sounded too loud in the quiet room. Lily chose that moment to whimper, a small sound of distress. I bounced her automatically, soothing, but my eyes stayed locked on the man's back. Finally, he turned, and I forgot how to breathe. He was young, mid-30s at most. I'd expected someone older, gray-haired and weathered. Instead, I got a face that belonged in magazines. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, full lips that looked cruel and sensual in equal measure. His eyes were dark, almost black, framed by thick lashes that should have softened his features, but somehow made them more intense. He was beautiful in a way that felt wrong, like a blade hidden in silk. Those dark eyes swept over me once, clinical and assessing, before dropping to Lily in my arms. And then, his entire body went rigid. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I'd learned to read body language when I waitressed, when knowing a customer's mood could mean the difference between a good tip and getting stiffed. This man's shoulders locked, his jaw clenched, and something flickered across his face too quickly for me to name. Shock. Maybe. Or recognition. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the table. "I prefer to stand." The words came out steadier than I felt. Small rebellion, probably stupid, but I needed something. Some illusion of control. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. More like acknowledgement of a move in a game I didn't know we were playing. "Then stand," he said, moving toward the table himself. He pulled out a chair, sat with fluid grace, and gestured again. "But you'll be more comfortable sitting." And the baby, her name is Lily. Why I interrupted him I couldn't say. Maybe because he'd called her the baby, like she was an object instead of a person. Maybe because fear was making me reckless. "Lily," he repeated, and the way he said her name made goosebumps rise on my arms. Careful, deliberate, like he was tasting it. An interesting choice. "What do you want?" The question burst from me, too loud, too desperate. "Why am I here? What do you want with us?" He leaned back in his chair, studying me with those dark eyes. The silence stretched until I wanted to scream. "The photo you sent," he finally said. "The bracelet. Tell me where you took it." "The hospital. St. Catherine's." "I already told you." "Which hospital?" he interrupted. "What room? What floor?" "The maternity ward." "Why does it matter?" "It's just the name on the bracelet." His voice cut through mine like a knife through cloth. "Lily Marie Woods, born December 4th. Mother, Elena Woods." He paused, and something dark crossed his features. "Father?" My throat closed. "None of your business. It is my business." He stood abruptly, and I instinctively stepped back, clutching Lily tighter. He froze, seeing my fear, and something shifted in his expression, not softening, but awareness. Like he'd forgotten for a moment what he must look like to someone like me. He stayed where he was but continued speaking, his voice lower now. Controlled. "The bracelet also has a medical ID number, an attending physician, time of birth. But there's something else, something you might not have noticed in your photo." He pulled out his phone, expensive naturally, and held it up so I could see the screen. My photo. The one I'd sent by mistake, but zoomed in, enhanced somehow, focusing on a detail I'd completely missed. There, printed small at the bottom of the bracelet, barely visible. A notation. Medical codes I didn't understand. And a name. Dr. Marcus Reeves, attending the room, tilted. Marcus. My Marcus. The father who'd abandoned us, stolen from me, disappeared without a trace. But that wasn't right. Marcus wasn't a doctor. He'd worked in sales, or so he'd told me. "Unless you know him," the man said. Not a question. A statement of fact. I don't understand." "Marcus Reeves. You know him. The father of your child." "How do you—" My voice cracked. "What is this? What's happening?" The man moved closer, And this time I couldn't back up. The wall was behind me, solid and unforgiving. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could smell him, expensive cologne mixing with something else, something darker. Smoke and leather and threat. "Marcus Reeves," he said softly, dangerously. "Stole from me. 3 months ago. $2 million, cash. Disappeared without a trace." His eyes bore into mine. "And now I find out he has a child. With you." The world narrowed to a pinpoint. $2 million. Marcus had stolen $2 million from this man who screamed danger from every pore, who commanded rooms and made people obey with a single word. "I didn't know," I whispered. "I swear I didn't know. He left me. Took my savings and disappeared. I haven't seen him since you got pregnant." "Yes." "And you expect me to believe that's coincidence?" "It's the truth." My voice rose, desperation making me loud. Lily fussed, startled, and I immediately lowered my tone, rocking her automatically. "Please. I don't know anything about stolen money. I don't know where he is. I'm just trying to survive." The man stared at me for a long moment. Then his eyes dropped to Lily again, and that strange expression returned. Hunger. Longing. Something I couldn't name. "What's your middle name?" he asked abruptly. "What?" "Your middle name. What is it?" "I don't have one." "Why, your mother's maiden name?" "Rossi." The word came out automatically, confusion overwhelming caution. "Maria Rossi." "Why are you asking me this?" He went very still, dangerously still, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Marie. You named her Marie. It was my mother's name. She died 2 years ago, and I stopped, seeing his face. What is it?" But he didn't answer, just stood there, staring at Lily like she was a ghost made flesh. And somewhere in the back of my mind, pieces started connecting, pieces that didn't make sense but couldn't be coincidence. The initial on the card, R. My mother's name, Rossi. The way he looked at my daughter with something that went beyond interest into obsession. "Who are you?" I breathed. He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something break through that controlled mask. Something raw. "My name," he said quietly, "is Dante Rossi. Rossi. My mother's maiden name, my daughter's middle name, and suddenly, impossibly, I understood why a photograph of a hospital bracelet had made this man tear apart the city to find me. He thought Lily was his. The world tilted sideways. I gripped Lily tighter, my knuckles white against her pink blanket, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Rossi," I repeated, my voice hollow. That's a common Italian name. My mother was Maria Rossi, born in Florence, moved to this city in 1995. Dante's voice was steady, but his eyes blazed. "She had a brother, Antonio. My father." No. My mother never mentioned a brother, but even as I said it, doubt crept in. My mother had been private about her past, always changing the subject when I asked about Italy, about family left behind. I'd assumed it was grief, the pain of leaving her homeland, but what if it was something else? She wouldn't have. Dante moved to the window again, his back to me, shoulders tight with tension. Antonio, my father. He made choices that respectable people don't associate with. Maria disappeared to protect herself, changed her name slightly, built a different life. Smart woman. "You're saying my mother was..." I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't voice what he was implying. "Running from my world." "Yes." He turned back to face me, and the intensity in his gaze made my stomach clench. "Which means your family, distant, but family. And that child..." He gestured to Lily. "That child carries Rossi blood." "But Marcus is her father, not you. Not Marcus Reeves doesn't exist." The words were flat, final. "It's an alias. A fake identity he used to get close to people in my organization. He played you, Elena, used you to get information, money, access. Then he vanished." The room spun. I reached for the chair, needing support, and this time Dante moved quickly to steady me. His hand on my elbow was firm, warm through the thin fabric of my dress. The touch sent electricity up my arm, fear mixed with something I didn't want to examine. "Sit," he said again, softer this time. "Please." I sat because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Lily squirmed, and I adjusted her against my chest, my mind racing through every conversation with Marcus, every moment we'd shared. Had all of it been lies? Every kiss? Every whispered promise? Every night he'd held me? "I loved him," I whispered, hating how broken I sounded. He counted on that. Dante sat across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Close. Too close. I could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, the faint scar along his jawline. That's what he does. Finds vulnerable women, makes them fall in love, uses them. "You're not the first." The words should have hurt more, but I'd already bled out over Marcus's betrayal. Now I just felt numb. "So what do you want from me?" I asked. "I can't help you find him. I don't know where he is." I know. Dante's gaze dropped to Lily again, and that hunger returned. "But you have something else, something more valuable." Dread pooled in my stomach. "What?" "Her." He nodded toward my daughter. "She's family, Elena. Rossi blood. In my world, that means protection, obligation. She's..." He stopped, jaw clenching. "She's mine to protect now. She's mine," I corrected sharply. Maternal instinct overriding fear. "Not yours. Not anyone's. Mine." Something flashed across his face. "Or respect. Approval, maybe." "Yes," he agreed. "She's yours. But that doesn't change what she is, what you both are now." He stood, pacing to the window and back, restless energy barely contained. Marcus stole from me, humiliated me, made me look weak in front of people who only respect strength. I need to find him. And you... He pointed at me. "You're the key. I told you, I don't know where. He'll come back." Dante's voice was certain. Men like Marcus, they always come back. Maybe for money, maybe for leverage. But he'll resurface eventually, and when he does, I need you where I can reach you, where I can protect you. Protect me? I laughed bitterly. Or use me as bait. Both. He didn't even try to lie. "You're in danger, Elena. The moment that bracelet photo reached me, other people knew I was looking for you. People who work for me, yes, but also people who work against me. Marcus made enemies beyond just me. If they think you can lead them to him, they'll come for you. For her." Terror spiked through me. "You're trying to scare me. I'm telling you the truth." He crouched in front of my chair, bringing himself to eye level. Up close, he was devastating, beautiful and terrible all at once. "You can go home to your apartment with the broken elevator and the eviction notice. You can pretend this conversation never happened, but eventually someone will knock on your door. And they won't be as patient as I am." "Patient?" My voice cracked. "You threatened me. Sent your people to find me. Dragged me here. I invited you here." His eyes held mine. "If I'd wanted to drag you, Elena, you never would have made it onto that bus. You'd have woken up somewhere secure with no choices at all. I gave you a choice. I'm still giving you one." "What choice?" "Come with me. Let me keep you safe. Both of you." He glanced at Lily, and something in his expression softened. "I have resources, properties, security, everything you need. You'd want for nothing." "In exchange for what? Being your prisoner?" "My guest." But the word felt like a lie. "Until Marcus resurfaces. Until I get back what he took from me. Then you're free to go." I wanted to laugh, wanted to scream. This man, this dangerous, beautiful man who claimed to be my cousin, who looked at my daughter like she was precious beyond measure, was offering me a gilded cage. "And if I refuse?" His jaw tightened. "Then I'll have someone watch your building, follow you, make sure no one else gets to you first. You'll live your life knowing you're being monitored every second. Is that what you want for her?" He nodded toward Lily, growing up with shadows at every corner. "I hate you," I whispered. "You don't know me well enough to hate me yet." He stood, pulling a card from his pocket. Different from the first, this one had a phone number printed in silver. "You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Call this number with your answer. And if I don't call, then I'll assume you chose the shadows." He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back. "Your mother was brave, stubborn. She walked away from everything to build a different life. I respect that. But she also knew when to accept help. when pride became stupidity. His eyes met mine. Don't let pride kill you, Elena, or her. Then he was gone, the door closing with a soft click that sounded like a cell door slamming shut. I sat there for a long time after he left, Lily sleeping peacefully in my arms, oblivious to the storm raging around us. The food on the table, I'd barely noticed it arriving, sat untouched. Crystal glasses, silver utensils, plates that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My phone buzzed. Sarah, finally responding to my text from yesterday. Sarah. Hey. How's motherhood? Let me know if you need anything. I stared at the message. What could I even say? Hey, Sarah. Turns out the father of my child is a con artist. I'm related to the Mafia, and a dangerous man who claims to be my cousin wants to lock me away for my own protection. Also, I'm broke and about to be evicted. How are you? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then dropped. There was nothing Sarah could do, nothing anyone could do, except Dante. I hated that he was right. That every word he'd said made terrible logical sense. I was in danger. Lily was in danger, and I had no resources to protect us. No skills beyond serving coffee and smiling through harassment, but accepting his offer meant entering a world I'd never wanted to know existed. A world my mother had fled from. A world of violence and shadows, and men who looked at you like possessions. The way Dante had looked at Lily, not like a possession, but like something precious, something worth protecting at any cost. That scared me most of all. The ride home was a blur. I clutched Lily and stared out the bus window, Dante's card burning a hole in my pocket. The city passed by, my city, the only home I'd ever known, and suddenly it felt foreign, threatening. Every face in the crowd could be someone watching me. Every car that passed could be following. Paranoia, I told myself. He'd gotten into my head. But when I climbed the 4 flights to my apartment, breathless and aching, I noticed the man standing across the hall. Suit, earpiece, eyes that tracked my every movement. "Good afternoon, Ms. Woods," he said politely. I didn't respond, just fumbled with my keys and practically fell through my door, slamming it shut and engaging all 3 locks. My hands shook so badly it took 2 tries. Shadows at every corner, Dante had said. He hadn't been exaggerating. I put Lily in her bassinet and moved to the window. 4 stories down, a black car idled at the curb. Tinted windows, expensive, watching. They were already here, already surrounding me. My phone rang, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello? Elena. Dante's voice, smooth and dark. You've noticed my people. You're having me watched, accusation and fear mixed in my tone. I told you I would, for your protection. This isn't protection. It's surveillance. It's both. A pause. Have you made your decision? You said I had until morning. I did, but I'm impatient. I could hear the smile in his voice, and I think you've already decided. You're just fighting yourself about it. He was right. God help me, he was right. Because as much as I wanted to refuse, as much as I wanted to cling to my independence and my pride, I couldn't. Not with Lily depending on me. Not when the alternative was this. Trapped in my crumbling apartment with strangers watching my every move, waiting for Marcus or his enemies to come calling. At least with Dante, I knew the threat. Could see it clearly. If I agree, I said slowly, I need guarantees. Name them. Lily's safety, above everything else. Whatever happens, whatever you need from me, she stays safe. Done. What else? I'm not a prisoner. If I want to leave eventually, I can. Silence on his end. Long enough that I thought he might refuse. When Marcus is found and dealt with, he finally said. When the threat is neutralized, then yes, you can leave. You have my word. The word of a... I stopped myself, but he laughed darkly. Say it, Elena. The word of a criminal? A monster? Yes, but I keep my promises, especially to family. Family. That word again. Was that what we were? Or was it just another manipulation? One more thing, I said. You don't touch her. You don't hurt her. Ever. I would never. His voice turned sharp, almost offended. She's a baby, an innocent. You think I'd. He cut himself off, breathing carefully. When he spoke again, his tone was controlled. You have my word on that too. She's safe with me. Safer than she'll be anywhere else. I looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully, tiny fists curled near her face, 3 days old and already caught in a nightmare. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll come with you. Smart girl. Satisfaction colored his words. Pack what you need. Someone will pick you up in an hour. An hour? I just got home. Every minute you're in that apartment, you're vulnerable. 1 hour, Elena. Be ready. He hung up before I could argue. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at Lily. What had I just agreed to? What kind of life was I condemning us to? But the alternative was worse. I started packing. True to his word, exactly 1 hour later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a woman this time, tall, elegant, wearing a tailored suit that screamed money. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes were cool but not unkind as they swept over me and the single duffel bag at my feet. Ms. Woods, I'm Katerina. I'll be escorting you to Mr. Rossi's residence. Mr. Rossi. So formal, so distant, as if we hadn't sat across from each other a few hours ago, as if he hadn't looked at my daughter with desperate hunger. Is it far? I asked, lifting the bag. Lily was strapped to my chest in the carrier I'd bought secondhand, fast asleep against my heart. 40 minutes. The car is downstairs. Katerina took my bag without asking, then paused. It will be all right, Ms. Woods. Mr. Rossi takes care of his own. His own. Was that what I was now? The car was exactly what I'd expected. Black, sleek, windows so dark I couldn't see inside until the driver opened the door. Leather seats, quiet engine. The kind of vehicle that cost more than most people made in a year. I slid inside, Katerina following. The door closed with an expensive thunk, sealing us in climate-controlled silence. We pulled away from my building, from my life, from everything familiar. I watched through the tinted window as my neighborhood disappeared, replaced by progressively nicer streets, bigger houses, wider spaces between buildings. Where are we going? I asked after 20 minutes of silence. Mr. Rossi's primary residence, estate property, very secure. You'll have your own suite, complete privacy. Katerina's tone was professional, detached. Anything you need, staff will provide. Just ask. Staff. Of course there was staff. And Dante, Mr. Rossi, where will he be? In the main house. But he keeps irregular hours. You may not see him often. I wasn't sure if that was reassuring or disappointing. Both, maybe. The city gave way to suburbs, then to something beyond suburbs. Estates hidden behind walls and gates. Properties that stretched for acres. Old money territory. The kind of place where people like me only existed to serve. Finally, we turned down a private road, approaching gates that looked like they belonged to a fortress. Tall iron bars, security cameras, a guardhouse with 2 men who nodded as we passed. The drive beyond was lined with trees, old growth, carefully maintained. And at the end of it, a house that stole my breath. Mansion didn't cover it. This was something else. Stone and glass, modern architecture blended with classical elements, sprawling across manicured grounds that seemed to stretch forever. Lights glowed from dozens of windows, warm against the evening darkness. Welcome home, Ms. Woods, Katerina said as the car stopped at the front entrance. But as I stepped out, Lily warm against my chest and stared up at the beautiful prison I'd agreed to enter. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil, and the devil was waiting for me somewhere inside those walls, watching, planning, ready to collect on the bargain we'd struck. The interior of the house was even more overwhelming than the exterior. Katerina led me through a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that looked like crystallized starlight, down a hallway lined with art that probably belonged in museums, past rooms I only glimpsed, a library, a sitting room, something that might have been a ballroom. Your suite is in the east wing, Katerina explained, her heels clicking against the floor. Mr. Rossi thought you'd prefer privacy and quiet for the baby. We climbed a sweeping staircase to the second floor, then down another hallway. She stopped at a set of double doors and pushed them open. I stepped inside and felt my breath catch. The suite was larger than my entire apartment. A sitting area with plush furniture faced a fireplace. Beyond that, a bedroom with a bed so big it looked ridiculous, dressed in linens that probably had a thread count higher than my credit score. And to the side, my throat tightened. A fully equipped nursery. "We had it prepared this afternoon," Katerina said, noticing my stare. Mr. Rossi was very specific about the requirements. "Everything is new, top of the line. If anything is missing, let me know." I walked toward the nursery on numb legs. A crib that looked like furniture from a palace. A changing table stocked with diapers, wipes, creams, more supplies than I'd had in 3 days of motherhood. Shelves with blankets, clothes in various sizes, toys for stages of development Lily wouldn't reach for months. "This is too much," I whispered. "Mr. Rossi doesn't do things halfway." Katerina set my duffel bag on a bench at the foot of the bed. "There are clothes in the closet for you as well. We estimated sizes, but adjustments can be made. Dinner will be brought up at 7, unless you prefer to dine in the main dining room. Up here is fine." The thought of eating in some formal dining room, alone or worse, with Dante, made my stomach clench. "As you wish. Is there anything else you need right now?" I wanted to ask 100 questions. Where was Dante? What were the rules? Could I actually leave if I wanted? Or were these beautiful rooms just a prettier cage? But exhaustion crashed over me suddenly. So overwhelming I swayed on my feet. "Sleep," I managed. "I just need sleep." Katerina's expression softened slightly. "Of course. Rest. No one will disturb you tonight." After she left, I stood in the middle of the suite, Lily still strapped to my chest, and tried to process the surreal turn my life had taken. 48 hours ago, I'd been in a hospital room, alone and terrified. Now I was in a mansion that probably had its own zip code, under the protection of a man who made my instincts scream danger. Lily stirred, making small, hungry sounds. Right. Reality intruded. Babies didn't care about life-changing decisions or moral quandaries. They cared about being fed, changed, and held. I settled into the obscenely comfortable armchair in the nursery and fed her, staring out the window at grounds lit by subtle landscape lighting. Somewhere out there were guards, cameras, systems designed to keep the world out. Or keep us in. I woke to sunlight streaming through curtains I didn't remember closing and a moment of complete disorientation. Wrong bed, wrong room, wrong everything. Then memory crashed back and I bolted upright, panic spiking. Lily. But she was fine, sleeping peacefully in the crib beside the bed. Someone, Katerina probably, had moved her at some point during the night without waking me. The realization that strangers had entered my room while I slept should have terrified me. Instead, I just felt grateful that I'd gotten rest. A knock sounded at the door. Soft. Careful. "Come in," I called, my voice rough from sleep. Katerina entered carrying a tray. The smell of coffee hit me first. Real coffee, the expensive kind, followed by the scent of fresh bread and fruit. "Good morning, Ms. Woods. I thought you might be hungry." I was. Ravenous, actually. I couldn't remember the last real meal I'd eaten. She set the tray on a small table near the window, then turned to me with that same professional expression. "Mr. Rossi would like to see you this morning, at your convenience. He's in his office on the first floor." My stomach tightened. "When?" "Whenever you're ready. There's no rush." But something in her tone suggested there was always a rush with Dante. "I can watch the baby if you'd like." Every maternal instinct rebelled at the idea. "No. Thank you, but no. I'll bring her with me." Katerina nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Of course. I'll let Mr. Rossi know you'll come down after breakfast." After she left, I ate mechanically, barely tasting the food that was probably incredible. My mind was already spinning ahead, preparing for whatever conversation awaited me. What did Dante want? What new demands would he make? I dressed in clothes from the closet. Jeans that fit perfectly. A soft sweater that probably cost more than my old car. Everything was my size. My style even. He'd been thorough. Disturbingly thorough. With Lily fed, changed, and nestled in my arms, I made my way downstairs. A young man in a dark suit appeared seemingly from nowhere to guide me, leading me through the maze of hallways to a door near the back of the house. He knocked once, then opened it. "Ms. Woods, sir." "Thank you, Marco." Dante's voice, rich and dark. I stepped inside, and the door closed behind me with a soft click. The office was different from what I'd expected. Not cold and corporate, but lived in, comfortable. Dark wood shelves lined with books that looked actually read, not just decorative. A massive desk dominated one side of the room, but Dante wasn't sitting behind it. Instead, he stood near the window, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that suggested he did more than just give orders. He turned when I entered, and I hated the way my breath caught. He was just a man. Beautiful, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But just a man. Except he wasn't. The way he moved, the way he commanded space, there was nothing ordinary about Dante Rossi. His eyes went immediately to Lily, that same hungry look flashing across his face before he controlled it. "You slept well?" "Yes." I stayed near the door, needing the escape route visible. "You wanted to see me?" "I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed, that you're comfortable." "I'm as comfortable as someone in my situation can be." A hint of a smile. "Fair." He moved toward his desk, putting distance between us. Giving me space, I realized. I also wanted to explain how things will work here. "You mean the rules of my imprisonment?" "The parameters of your stay," he corrected smoothly. "You're free to move about the house and grounds as you wish. The staff will accommodate any requests. You're not a prisoner, Elena. Just closely monitored. Protected." His jaw tightened slightly. "There's a difference." "Is there?" I challenged, some reckless part of me pushing. "Can I leave?" "Right now, if I wanted to. Could I walk out that front door?" His eyes darkened. "You could try. And your guards would stop me. My guards would protect you from making a fatal mistake." He leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. "You think I'm your enemy. I understand that. But I'm not. The people looking for Marcus, the ones who want what he stole from various organizations, not just mine, they are your enemy. They don't care that you're innocent. They only care that you're connected to him." "How do I even know that's true? How do I know you're not just making it up to keep you here?" He moved suddenly, closing the distance between us before I could react. Not touching, but close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "What would be the point, Elena? If I wanted you prisoner, you'd be in a locked room, not a suite. If I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it already. If I wanted to use you as bait without your knowledge, I wouldn't have told you anything. Then what do you want?" My voice came out breathless, and I hated it. His gaze dropped to Lily, then back to me. "I want my family safe, both of you. I want Marcus found and dealt with. And I want—" He stopped, something raw flashing across his features. "I want to know my cousin's daughter, the only blood family I have left who's innocent." The words hung in the air between us. I wanted to mock them, to call him a liar, but there was something in his expression, some loneliness that mirrored my own, that made me pause. "Your father?" I asked quietly. "Antonio?" "Dead. 3 years ago." His voice was flat. "Heart attack. Ironic, considering his line of work. No other siblings. My mother died when I was young. So you see, Elena, you and Lily, you're it, the only family I have who isn't bought or bound by obligation." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to respond to the vulnerability he was showing me, real or manipulated. "I'm sorry," I finally managed. "About your parents." He shrugged, the moment passing, walls going back up. "It's the life we choose, or the life that chooses us." He moved back to the window, giving me space again. "But that's not why I asked you here. I have news." Dread pooled in my stomach. "What kind of news?" "Someone tried to access your old apartment last night. 2 men, both armed. My people intercepted them. The room spun. What did they want? You, or information about you. We didn't give them a chance to explain." His tone was casual, but the implication was clear. Those men were dead, or wishing they were. "It confirms what I told you. You're being hunted. If you'd stayed in that apartment." He didn't need to finish the sentence. I clutched Lily tighter, fear making my hands shake. Who sent them? Still determining that, but it proves my point. You're safer here than you ever would have been alone. He turned back to face me. I know you hate this. Hate me, probably. But I meant what I said. I protect my family. And whether you like it or not, that's what you are now. We barely know each other. Blood doesn't require familiarity. His eyes held mine. It only requires recognition. And I recognized what you were the moment I saw that bracelet, saw my family name, my blood. You think I could ignore that? Walk away? Most people would. I'm not most people. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious truth in the world. And it was. Looking at him, this dangerous, beautiful man who commanded empires and made people disappear, I understood that whatever else he was, whatever lies he might tell, this was true. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever met, and that terrified me. I want to help, I said suddenly. Finding Marcus. I want to help. Why? His eyebrows rose. Because he destroyed my life, took everything from me, and because... I looked down at Lily. Because if he's out there, she's never safe. So I want him found. I want this over. Dante studied me for a long moment. What can you tell me about him? Anything he said? Places he mentioned? People he knew? I thought back, trying to remember details through the fog of betrayal. He said he worked in medical sales, traveled a lot, was gone for days at a time, sometimes weeks. He had an apartment across town, but I was only there a few times. He always wanted to come to my place. Because he was keeping you separate from his real life, Dante said grimly. What else? He had a tattoo. On his shoulder. Numbers. I closed my eyes, picturing it. 24/7/19. I asked him once what it meant. He said it was his sister's birthday, but he seemed uncomfortable about it. Dante pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Good. That's something. What about friends? Associates? No one. He kept me isolated. Said he didn't like sharing me with others. The words tasted bitter now. I thought it was romantic. Turns out it was just strategy. He's good at what he does, Dante acknowledged. But everyone makes mistakes. Everyone leaves traces. He looked up from his phone. My people will investigate. In the meantime, you focus on recovering, getting your strength back. Let me handle finding him. And when you do, what happens to me then? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. Then you get your life back, Dante said quietly. You and Lily. Free and clear. That's the deal. You make it sound simple. It is simple. The execution is complicated, but the concept is simple. He moved closer again, and this time I didn't step back. I keep my promises, Elena. Remember that. When all of this is over, when Marcus is no longer a threat, you can walk away. No obligations. No strings. And if I want to stay in touch, the words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise him. If I decide that maybe Lily should know her family, something blazed in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Or hunger. Then I would like that very much, he said softly. More than you know. The days blurred together. Lily grew stronger, more alert, her eyes focusing on the world around her. I recovered from the birth, my body slowly remembering what it felt like to not be exhausted to the bone. The staff was attentive but not intrusive, appearing when needed, vanishing when not. And Dante. Dante was everywhere and nowhere. I'd see him in the hallway sometimes, always surrounded by men in suits, always on his phone, always moving. He'd nod in acknowledgement, but we didn't speak. Other times, I'd come down to breakfast and find him already there, reading the paper, drinking espresso. He'd look up, our eyes would meet, and something would pass between us. Something I didn't want to name. A week into my stay, I found him in the library late at night. I'd been unable to sleep, Lily finally resting after hours of fussiness, and had wandered downstairs hoping to find something to read. He was sitting in a leather chair near the fireplace, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, staring into the flames. He looked different in this light, softer somehow, younger, the harsh edges smoothed by shadow and fire. Can't sleep? He asked without looking at me. How did you know I was here? I always know who's in my house. He glanced over, and the firelight caught in his eyes. Security feeds. Also, you have a tell. You hold your breath when you're trying to be quiet. I hadn't realized I'd been doing that. I can leave. Don't. He gestured to the chair across from him. Stay. Unless I make you uncomfortable. You do, I admitted, but I sat anyway. But everything makes me uncomfortable now. Might as well get used to it. A hint of a smile. Fair. He took a sip of his drink. How is she? Lily? Colicky. The doctor says it's normal, but it's hard to watch her in pain. Doctor? The one who came yesterday. Didn't you send him? I did. I wanted to make sure she was healthy. And you. His eyes found mine. Are you? Healthy? Physically, yes. Mentally. I shrugged. I'm a single mother living in the house of a man I barely know because the father of my child is a criminal who stole millions. How do you think I'm doing mentally? Better than most would be in your situation. There was approval in his tone. You're strong, Elena. Stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm drowning. Strength isn't about feeling confident. It's about surviving anyway. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You've been through hell, lost everything. And yet you're still standing, still fighting for your daughter. That's strength. The compliment warmed something in my chest, dangerous and unwelcome. Tell me about my mother, I said, changing the subject. You said she left Italy, left your father. Dante's expression darkened. She was smart to leave. My father, Antonio. He was brilliant, but ruthless. Built an empire, but destroyed everything he touched in the process. Maria saw what he was becoming and ran. Changed her name. Disappeared into America. I didn't know about her until I was older. Found records my father had hidden. By then, she'd built a new life. I thought about contacting her, but... He shrugged. What would be the point? She'd left for a reason. She died 2 years ago, I said softly. Cancer. Pain flashed across his face. I'm sorry. Me too. I stared into the fire. She never talked about her past. I used to think she was ashamed of being an immigrant. But maybe she was just protecting me. From your world. Probably both. He finished his drink, set the glass aside. Do you remember anything she said about family? Just once. Near the end, when the morphine made her confused. She said something in Italian. Il sangue chiama sangue. A blood calls to blood, Dante translated quietly. His eyes locked on mine. She knew. Even dying. She knew what you'd face eventually. What does that mean? It means you can't escape family, Elena. No matter how far you run, no matter how much you try to hide, blood calls to blood. Family finds family. He stood, moving to the fireplace. And sometimes that's a curse. Sometimes it's salvation. Which is it for us? He looked at me over his shoulder, and in the firelight, he looked almost human, almost safe. I haven't decided yet, he admitted. Ask me when this is over. 3 weeks passed in a strange rhythm of domesticity and danger. Lily thrived, growing plumper and more alert each day. I fell into routines, feeding schedules, walks through the gardens with security trailing at a discreet distance, quiet evenings in my suite. It felt almost normal, except for the armed guards and the constant awareness that I was living in a beautiful prison. Dante and I orbited each other carefully. Sometimes he'd join me for breakfast, and we'd talk about nothing important. Books, the weather, Lily's latest milestone. Other times, I'd hear raised voices from his office, doors slamming, tense phone calls in Italian that made the staff move faster and speak quieter. The night everything changed started ordinarily enough. I was in the nursery, rocking Lily to sleep, when Katerina appeared in the doorway. Her usual composure was cracked, worry evident in the tight lines around her mouth. Ms. Woods, Mr. Rossi needs to see you. Immediately. The urgency in her tone made my pulse spike. What's wrong? Please, just come. I settled Lily in her crib, she was already drowsy, and followed Katerina downstairs. Instead of Dante's office, she led me to a room I'd never entered. The door was steel, reinforced, with a keypad lock. She entered a code, and it opened with a heavy click. Inside was what could only be called a war room. Monitors covered one wall, showing security feeds from around the property and beyond. Maps were spread across a large table in the center, and Dante stood with 3 other men, all of them armed, all of them looking at something on a laptop screen. Elena. Dante looked up, his face grim. "We found Marcus." My breath caught. "Where?" "Here. In the city." He turned the laptop toward me, and I saw grainy security footage of a man entering a building. Dark hair, lean build, confident stride. Even in the poor quality video, I recognized him instantly. Marcus. The man I'd loved. The father of my child. The liar who'd destroyed my life. "When was this taken?" My voice sounded distant, not quite my own. 2 hours ago. He's been moving through the city, hitting locations, looking for something. Dante's eyes were dark, dangerous, or someone. "We think he knows you're here." Ice flooded my veins. "How?" "We're not sure yet, but he's getting bolder, making moves, which means he's desperate," one of the other men finished. Older, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much violence. "Desperate men make mistakes, or they do something insane," Dante countered. He looked at me, and I saw conflict in his expression. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest, okay? And if you saw him again, if we brought him here, could you face him?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Face Marcus? The man who'd stolen everything from me? Part of me wanted to scream no, wanted to hide, wanted to pretend he didn't exist. But another part, the part that had grown harder over these weeks, that had learned to survive in Dante's world, that part wanted answers, wanted closure, wanted to look Marcus in the eyes and show him he hadn't broken me. "Yes," I heard myself say. Yes, I could face him. Dante studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. Because we're going to draw him out, and you're going to be the bait." The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Marcus had been monitoring my old apartment building, apparently waiting for me to return, so Dante would make it look like I had. Security footage would show me entering, lights would go on in the apartment, movement would be visible through the windows. Except it wouldn't be me. It would be one of Dante's people, a woman roughly my build and coloring, wearing my clothes, and when Marcus made his move, Dante's team would be waiting. "He won't hurt her," I said, pacing Dante's office while he finalized details with his men. "The decoy. He won't actually hurt her, will he? He won't get the chance." Dante's voice was cold, certain. "My people are the best. They'll take him before he gets within 10 feet of that apartment. And then what? What happens to him?" Dante looked at me, and I saw the predator beneath the polished exterior. "Then I get my money back, and my reputation. And you get to ask him whatever you want before I decide what he's worth to me alive versus dead." The casual way he said it, alive versus dead, should have horrified me. A month ago, it would have, but I'd changed. This world had changed me. "I want to be there," I said. "When you bring him in, I want to see his face. Elena, please." I moved closer, and Dante's jaw tightened. "I need this. I need to face him, to show him he didn't destroy me." Something flickered in Dante's eyes, pride, maybe, or understanding. "All right," he agreed quietly. "But you stay behind my men. You don't approach him until I say it's safe. Understood?" "Understood." They set the trap that night. I watched from the war room as the decoy entered my old building. Security feeds tracking her every movement. She was good. Moved like me. Held herself like someone exhausted and defeated. If I hadn't known it was a fake, I might have believed it myself. Dante stood beside me, his presence solid and somehow reassuring despite everything. His men were positioned throughout the building and on surrounding rooftops. Every exit was covered, every angle accounted for. "He'll come," Dante said, more to himself than to me. "His ego won't let him stay away." And Dante was right. At 11:47 p.m., movement on one of the exterior cameras caught my attention. A figure in dark clothing, face obscured by a hood, approaching from the east. He moved with practiced ease, avoiding the main entrance, heading for the fire escape I'd used 100 times when the elevator was broken. "That's him," I breathed. Dante was already on his radio, giving quiet orders. On the screens, I watched his men adjust positions, tightening the net. Marcus reached the fire escape and started climbing. 4th floor, my old apartment. He was so confident, so certain this would work. He had no idea he was walking into a trap. The decoy moved away from the window at Dante's signal, Marcus reached the apartment's fire escape window, the one with the broken lock I'd never gotten fixed, and jimmied it open with practiced ease. He'd done this before, I realized with sick certainty, probably while I was at work, going through my things, stealing my money, planning his escape. He climbed through the window, and the trap snapped shut. I couldn't see what happened inside the apartment. No cameras there, but I heard it through the radio. Shouts, a brief scuffle, then silence. "Target secured," one of Dante's men reported. "No injuries. Bringing him in." Dante looked at me. "Ready?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. They brought Marcus to a room in the basement I hadn't known existed. Concrete walls, bare bulb lighting, a chair bolted to the floor where they'd secured him. His hood was off now, revealing the face I'd once loved. Still handsome, still confident, even zip-tied to a chair with 4 armed men surrounding him. He looked up when we entered, and I watched recognition flash across his features, then shock, then calculation. Elena. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Smooth, warm, the voice that had whispered promises in the dark. Thank God. "These men, they've kidnapped me, you have to—" "Don't." The word came out harder than I'd intended. "Don't insult my intelligence. Not anymore." His expression shifted, masks falling away until I saw the truth underneath. Cold. Calculating. Nothing like the man I'd thought I knew. "So, you figured it out," he said casually. "Or did Rossi tell you? Either way, impressive. I didn't think you had it in you." The words were meant to hurt, to make me feel small, but instead, I felt something else. Power. Clarity. "You stole from me," I said quietly. "Lied to me. Used me, and you left me pregnant and alone. Business, sweetheart. Nothing personal." He shrugged as much as his restraints allowed. "You were a means to an end, a way to get information on Rossi's operations. The pregnancy was unfortunate timing." Beside me, Dante went very still. Dangerous still. "Unfortunate," I repeated. "You think my daughter, your daughter, is unfortunate?" "I think she's a complication I don't need." Marcus's eyes flicked to Dante. "But maybe Rossi disagrees. After all, he's been taking such good care of you both, hasn't he? Playing the noble protector. Did he tell you why he's really keeping you around?" "Careful," Dante warned, his voice lethal. But Marcus laughed. "She deserves to know the truth, don't you think? About family, about blood, about why a man like you would suddenly care about a random woman and her bastard child." "Marcus," I started, but he cut me off. "He's not protecting you out of kindness, Elena. He's using you. Just like I did. Because that baby," he nodded toward me, "that baby might be mine, but she's also Rossi's blood, his cousin's daughter. And in his world, blood is currency. Family is power. You think he gives a damn about you? He cares about what you represent, about having an heir to his empire who's innocent, malleable, who can be shaped." Dante moved faster than I could track. One moment he was beside me, the next his hand was around Marcus's throat, lifting him in the chair slightly off the ground. "You don't know anything about what I care about," Dante said softly, dangerously. "You never did. That's why you failed. Why you'll always fail." He released Marcus, who gasped for air and turned to me. "Elena, everything he's saying is manipulation, trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't listen to him." "But is he right?" I asked, my voice shaking. "About why you're helping me. About Lily being currency." Dante's jaw clenched. "Initially, maybe. When I first saw that bracelet, saw Rossi blood, yes. I thought about legacy, about family, about not being alone." He moved closer, his eyes intense. "But that was before I knew you, before I saw how you fought for her, how you've survived despite everything, before I realized that you're not just blood relation. You're family in every way that matters." "Pretty words," Marcus sneered. "But we both know how this ends, don't we, Rossi? You get your money back, kill me, and keep Elena trapped here forever, because letting her go means losing control, and you can't stand that. You're wrong." Dante's voice was quiet, but absolute. "Elena stays or goes as she chooses. always has been her choice. Then let her choose now, Marcus challenged. Let her walk out that door, right now, with the baby. No guards, no threats. See what she does. The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. My heart hammered against my ribs. Fear and confusion and anger swirling into a toxic mix. Could I leave? Just walk away from all of this? The danger, the luxury, the complicated man who'd become something I couldn't quite name? I looked at Marcus, the man I'd once loved, and felt nothing but disgust. Then I looked at Dante, the man I'd feared, and saw something else, something real beneath the danger. No, I said quietly. No? He's got
Marcus
you that brainwashed
bitterly.
already? No, I repeated, stronger this time. I'm not leaving. Not because Dante's forcing me to stay, but because I choose to. Because you're still out there, still a threat, and here. I gestured to the room, to Dante, to everything. Here we're safe. Lily is safe. And when you're dealt with, when the threat is gone, then I'll decide what comes next, on my terms. Pride blazed in Dante's eyes. Marcus's face twisted with rage. You stupid! Where's the money? Dante cut him off, all business now. 2 million. Where is it? Marcus smiled, ugly and mean. Gone. Spent. Invested. You'll never see it again. Then you're worthless to me alive. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something. My people found your accounts. Offshore. Encrypted. Very clever. Unfortunately for you, my people are more clever. He showed Marcus the screen. Empty now. Every cent. And it's sitting in my accounts as we speak. The color drained from Marcus's face. You can't. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible with the right resources. Dante pocketed his phone. So here's how this works. You've stolen from multiple organizations, including mine. You've used and manipulated innocent people. You've threatened my family. All of that adds up to a death sentence in my world. You can't kill me. Marcus's confidence cracked. Elena won't let you. She's not like us. She still has morals, conscience. She also has a daughter to protect, Dante interrupted. And you're a threat to that daughter, so what happens next isn't about revenge or justice. It's about elimination of risk. He looked at me. Elena, last chance. If you want him to live, for whatever reason, because he's Lily's biological father, because you still feel something, speak now. I'll send him away. Far away. He'll never bother you again. I stared at Marcus, this man who'd held me, kissed me, promised me forever. This man who'd stolen my money, my trust, my sense of safety. This man whose daughter slept upstairs, innocent and perfect, and deserving of so much better than him. Do what you need to do, I heard myself say. Just make sure he can never hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. Marcus's eyes widened with real fear. Elena, please, but I was already turning away, walking toward the door. Dante followed, leaving his men with Marcus. Behind us, I heard pleading turn to threats, turn to sobbing. I didn't look back. Upstairs, in the quiet luxury of my suite, I stood in the nursery doorway watching Lily sleep. So peaceful, so innocent. She'd never know her biological father. Would probably grow up thinking of Dante as family, uncle, protector, something more complicated than words could capture. Are you all right? Dante's voice came from behind me. Quiet, careful. I don't know, I admitted. Am I supposed to feel guilty, sad? I just sentenced a man to death. You chose to protect your daughter. There's no guilt in that. He moved to stand beside me, both of us watching Lily. He made his choices, Elena. You're not responsible for the consequences. What will happen to him? Do you really want to know? I thought about it, then shook my head. No, I just want him gone. Out of our lives. Forever. He will be. Dante turned to face me. And then you're free. You can stay, you can go. It's your choice. No obligations. What if I don't want to be free? The words came out before I could stop them. What if I've gotten used to this, to feeling safe, to having family even if it's complicated? His eyes darkened with something I couldn't name. Then you stay, for as long as you want. This is your home now, if you want it to be. And what are we? I asked quietly. Family? Friends? Something else? Dante moved closer and my breath caught. He raised his hand, hesitating, then gently traced his fingers along my cheek. The touch was electric, dangerous, full of promise and threat in equal measure. "We're whatever you want us to be," he said softly. "I won't pressure you, won't force anything, but Elena." His eyes bore into mine. "You need to know that I've become invested. In you. In Lily. In the idea of actually having family who chooses to be with me. Not because they're afraid or obligated, but because they want to be. That's a lot of pressure," I whispered. "I know, and I'm sorry for that." He dropped his hand, but didn't step back. "So here's what's going to happen. Marcus will be dealt with by tomorrow. After that, you'll have time, space, to figure out what you want. If you choose to leave, I'll set you up. Money, security, everything you need to start fresh somewhere safe. If you choose to stay..." His jaw tightened. "If you choose to stay, we figure out what this is, together, at your pace. And if I'm still figuring it out, if I don't know what I want, then I wait." He said it simply, like it was the easiest thing in the world. I'm a patient man, Elena. When something matters, I can wait forever. The weight of his words settled over me, heavy and warm and terrifying. This man, this dangerous, powerful, beautiful man, was offering me everything: safety, family, time, choice, and the scariest part was that I wanted it. Despite everything, despite the fear and the violence and the impossible circumstances, I wanted this life. Wanted him. "Okay," I said finally. "Okay. I'll stay. For now. We'll figure it out. Together." The smile that crossed his face was genuine, unguarded, the first truly open expression I'd seen from him. He looked younger, almost vulnerable. "Together," he agreed. 6 months later, Lily's laughter filled the garden as Dante lifted her high in the air, making airplane noises that were frankly ridiculous, coming from a man who commanded an empire. But she loved it, shrieking with delight, her tiny hands reaching for his face. I watched from the patio, coffee in hand, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, contentment, home. Marcus was gone. I didn't know the details, didn't want to know. Just knew that the threat had been eliminated, permanently. In the aftermath, I'd waited for guilt that never came. Instead, I felt only relief. Dante had kept his promise about giving me space. We'd spent months learning each other. Meals together, conversations that stretched into early morning, moments of comfortable silence. He'd shown me his world carefully, let me decide how much I wanted to be part of it. And I'd surprised both of us by wanting more than I'd expected. I'd started helping with the legitimate parts of his business. He had investments, properties, companies that operated in the light. Turns out waitressing had taught me about people, about reading situations, skills that translated well. Dante valued my input, listened to my ideas. We'd become partners, in business and slowly, carefully, in other ways. He'd never pushed, never demanded. But there were moments, brushed hands, long looks, tension that hummed between us, that promised something more when we were both ready. Lily had become the center of both our worlds. Dante doted on her with fierce protectiveness that should have been alarming but somehow felt right. He'd be in a meeting with dangerous men, then drop everything when she cried. Would hold her for hours, speaking Italian softly, teaching her words she was too young to understand. She called him Tete, her attempt at Dante, and he wore it like a crown. "She's going to be spoiled rotten," I called out, as he spun her in circles. "That's the plan," he called back, grinning, genuinely happy. "Only the best for Principessa, my princess, our princess." Katerina appeared beside me with more coffee, her professional mask slipping into something like warmth. "Mr. Rossi has been different since you arrived. Lighter, more human." "Is that good or bad in your world?" I asked. "Good," she smiled. "Very good. A man who remembers his humanity makes better decisions than one who only remembers power." After she left, I set down my coffee and walked to Dante. Lily reached for me immediately, and I took her, settling her on my hip. "We need to talk," I said. Concern flashed across Dante's face. About this. Us. What we're doing. I took a breath. I know we said we'd take time, figure things out. But Dante, it's been 6 months, and I think I figured it out. His body went tense. And I'm scared, I admitted. Terrified, actually. Because I didn't expect this. Didn't expect to care about you. Didn't expect to want this life, this family, this us. Elena. But I do, I continued. I care about you. More than I should, probably. More than is smart. And I want this. Want us. Want to actually try. Not just exist in this limbo. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then his hand came up to cup my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "You're sure?" His voice was rough. "Because once we cross this line, I won't be able to go back. Won't be able to pretend I don't want everything with you." "I'm sure." And I was. Despite the fear, despite the complications, despite everything. "Are you?" His answer was a kiss, careful at first, mindful of Lily between us, then deeper as I shifted her to one arm and pulled him closer with the other. It was promise and claiming and homecoming all at once. When we broke apart, both breathless, Lily was patting both our faces like she was trying to figure out what just happened. "So," I said, smiling despite myself, "what now?" Dante grinned. That rare, genuine expression that transformed his face. "Now we live. We build. We raise her together." He touched Lily's cheek gently, and we figure out the rest as we go. "That simple? That complicated," he corrected. "You're worth it. She's worth it." His eyes met mine. This, whatever this becomes, is worth everything. And standing there in the garden, sun warm on our faces, Lily babbling happily between us, I realized he was right. It wouldn't be simple, wouldn't be conventional, but it would be ours. Blood had called to blood, just like my mother had said, but more than that, something deeper had taken root. Choice. Trust. Family built not just on genetics, but on decision, on showing up, on choosing each other every day. "I love you," I said suddenly. The words felt right, true, despite how terrifying they were to say. Dante's eyes widened, then softened with emotion so raw it took my breath away. "Ti amo, Elena," he whispered back. "You and Lily both. My family. Finally." Lily chose that moment to sneeze directly in Dante's face, breaking the moment into laughter. He didn't even flinch, just wiped his face and kissed her forehead. "Welcome to parenthood," I teased. "Best decision I never made," he replied, pulling us both close. And there, wrapped in the arms of a man I'd feared and learned to love, holding the daughter who'd saved us both, I finally understood what home meant. Not a place. Not safety. Not even happiness. Home was choice. And every day, despite everything, I chose this. I chose him.